March 1994. 6 elite cave divers descend into the deepest cave system in the Western Hemisphere. They have the best equipment money can buy, decades of experience between them, and within 48 hours, 2 of them will be dead. This submerged labyrinth in Mexico's Oaxaca mountains plunges more than 5,000 feet into the earth. It's not just deep, it's complex, a maze of flooded passages, tight restrictions, and vertical drops that has challenged the world's best cave divers for decades. On March 23, 1994, a team of 6 divers descended into Huautla for what was supposed to be a routine exploration dive. They were the best of the best. Ian Rolland, a British cave diving instructor with over 1,000 dives under his belt. His dive partner, an experienced American cave explorer who knew these systems intimately. They entered the water at 10 a.m. Their plan was simple: push into an unexplored section called the San Agustin Sump, venture deeper, map new passages, return safely. By midnight, rescue teams would be mobilizing. By dawn, they'd be searching for bodies. What went wrong in those dark, submerged tunnels? And why couldn't even the world's most experienced rescue divers save them? To understand this disaster, you need to understand Sistema Huautla itself. This isn't a normal cave system. It's a geological monster. The cave extends over 55 miles of mapped passages. Some sections are dry, cathedral-like chambers where you can walk upright. Others are completely submerged, underwater tunnels so narrow you can barely squeeze through, even with dive gear. The deepest point sits 5,067 feet below the surface. That's nearly a mile straight down into the earth. Cave divers exploring Huautla face challenges ocean divers can't even imagine. In the ocean, if something goes wrong, you surface. In Huautla, the surface might be thousands of feet away, requiring you to navigate through a labyrinth of tunnels in total darkness. The team entering Huautla on March 23rd knew all this. They'd spent months planning the expedition. They'd established underground camps at various depths. They'd stocked equipment, food, and emergency supplies throughout the cave system. Ian Rolland was leading the dive. At 32 years old, he was considered one of Britain's most talented cave divers. He'd explored underwater caves around the world. Huautla had become his obsession. He'd been coming here for years, slowly pushing into unexplored sections, going deeper. His dive partner that day was equally experienced. Together, they'd completed dozens of dives in Huautla's submerged passages. The rest of the team would provide support from Camp 5, an underground base camp located 2,000 feet below the surface. If something went wrong, they'd be ready to help. Everything was planned. Everything was prepared. But in cave diving, sometimes planning isn't enough. At 10 a.m., Rolland and his partner entered Sump 9, one of the deepest sections of the San Agustin system. The water temperature was 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees Celsius. Cold enough to sap your strength if you stay too long. They were using rebreathers, specialized diving equipment that recycles your breath instead of releasing it as bubbles. Rebreathers allow for much longer dive times than regular scuba tanks. They're also incredibly complex. Dozens of components that all need to work perfectly. The dive plan called for 4 hours underwater, exploring new passages and laying guideline for future expeditions. The guideline was their lifeline, literally. In zero visibility conditions, you follow the line back to the entrance or you get lost. They descended into the flooded passage. The walls closed in around them. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing smooth limestone walls polished by millions of years of water flow. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. They navigated through tight restrictions, carefully laying guideline as they went. They discovered new passages, marveled at formations no human had ever seen. But then something happened. Nobody knows exactly what went wrong. Survivors could only piece together clues from what they found later. But somewhere in that submerged labyrinth, disaster struck. The most likely theory? Rebreather failure. Rebreathers use chemicals to scrub carbon dioxide from the air you breathe. If those chemicals fail, or if water gets into the breathing loop, you start inhaling your own carbon dioxide. The symptoms come fast: confusion, disorientation, panic. And in a submerged cave, panic kills. Back at Camp 5, the support team waited. Noon came and went, then 2 p.m., then 4. Rolland and his partner should have been back by 2 p.m. at the latest. By 6 p.m., the team knew something had gone terribly wrong. They activated emergency protocol. 2 support divers geared up and entered Sump 9, following the guideline Rolland had laid that morning. What they found would haunt them forever. About 1,000 feet into the sump, they found Rolland's partner. He was floating in the water column, his rebreather still attached, his eyes open behind his mask. He was dead. The support divers secured the body and continued searching. 500 feet deeper, they found Ian Rolland. He'd managed to get farther than his partner. He'd fought harder. The evidence was everywhere. His equipment was partially removed, a desperate attempt to reduce drag and swim faster. His fins were gone. His dive computer showed he'd tried to ascend, then descended again, becoming disoriented, losing direction. In his final moments, Rolland had been lost in the darkness, his rebreather poisoning him with carbon dioxide, his mind shutting down as he swam in circles, trying to find the guideline he'd laid just hours before. He died alone, in complete darkness, in a submerged passage no rescue team could reach in time. Now the support team faced an agonizing decision. 2 bodies, both 1,000 feet into a submerged cave, both too deep and too far from the entrance for a simple recovery. The rescue divers who found them couldn't bring them out. They didn't have enough air. They didn't have the right equipment. Attempting a body recovery at that depth in those conditions would likely create 2 more corpses. They had to leave them there. Word spread through the caving community. Within 48 hours, some of the world's most experienced cave rescue divers were flying to Mexico. They brought specialized equipment, extra rebreathers, high-capacity tanks, body recovery harnesses. The recovery operation took 6 days. Dive teams worked in rotation, slowly transporting the bodies through the submerged passages. Every 100 feet required hours of work. Divers had to navigate through tight restrictions while managing 2 corpses, their own equipment, and the constant threat of silt clouds that could reduce visibility to 0. At one point, they had to carefully chip away at the limestone to widen a restriction because Rolland's body, with the recovery harness attached, wouldn't fit through. 6 days, dozens of divers, thousands of dollars in equipment. Finally, on March 29th, both bodies emerged from Sump 9. The team carried them up through 2,000 vertical feet of cave to the surface. Ian Rolland's family had been waiting at the cave entrance for 6 days, hoping for a miracle they knew wouldn't come. The investigation revealed what cave divers feared: rebreather failure. Rolland's partner's rebreather had flooded with water, filling the breathing loop with liquid. He was still underwater when he could no longer breathe from his equipment. Rolland's rebreather had suffered a chemical scrubber failure. He'd been inhaling increasing levels of carbon dioxide for over an hour before the symptoms became severe enough to completely disorient him. By the time he realized something was wrong, he was already too confused to find his way back to the entrance. Both failures were equipment malfunctions, not diver error, not poor planning. Just bad luck with incredibly complex machines in an environment that punishes every failure instantly. The Sistema Huautla disaster changed cave diving forever. Rebreather technology improved, safety protocols were rewritten, training standards were raised. Today's cave divers carry redundant systems that Rolland's team never had. But the fundamental truth remains unchanged. There are places on Earth so dangerous, so unforgiving, that even the best equipment and the best training can't guarantee your survival. Sistema Huautla is still being explored today. Divers still descend into those submerged passages, going deeper, still discovering new sections, still chasing the mystery of where all that water goes. They pass through Sump 9, where Rolland and his partner died. They see the guideline Rolland laid in his final hours, still in place 30 years later. And they remember that there's no such thing as a routine dive in cave diving. Every descent into the darkness is a gamble with death. Sometimes you win. Sometimes the cave wins. But here's what most people don't know about cave disasters. Sistema Huautla wasn't an isolated incident. Sistema Huautla wasn't even the deadliest cave in the world. In Florida, there's a place, a sinkhole that drops 300 feet straight down into the earth. Locals call it Eagle's Nest. From the surface, it looks peaceful, almost inviting. Crystal clear water, warm Florida sunshine. But beneath that deceptive surface lies something that has killed more divers than any other cave in North America. The entrance is easy, a wide open shaft. You descend through beautiful clear water, sunlight filtering down from above. At 70 feet you see it, a small opening in the wall, just big enough for one diver at a time. That opening leads to a labyrinth, a network of passages that twist and turn in complete darkness. And here's the terrifying part. Once you enter that labyrinth, it's already too late. You lose your sense of direction. In 2016, 2 experienced divers entered Eagle's Nest for what was supposed to be a simple training dive. They had all the right equipment. They followed all the safety rules. They even had a guideline to follow back to the entrance. But something happened in those dark passages. Something so disorienting, so psychologically devastating, that it didn't matter how experienced they were. One of them made it out, barely. Traumatized, he couldn't speak for hours. The other is still down there, and what killed him wasn't equipment failure. It wasn't running out of air. It wasn't even a physical problem. It was something in his mind, something the cave did to him psychologically that made him make a choice that sealed his fate. So what was it? What happens to your brain when you're lost in a labyrinth 200 feet underwater in total darkness where every tunnel looks the same? But that story is for another video. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you have a story suggestion, let me know in the comments.